Hi everyone, so we're going to start our project, and to do so I've opened my Android Studio. I'm using the Android Studio 2. So to start a new project, I'm going to click Start a new Android Studio project, and that's it. So when I have to choose the application name, I just choose the application name that we are going to create. And what we are going to do is to handle all the students that we have and the context and their information and so on. So what I'm going to call this application is the contacts in plural. Okay, so the company name is alura.com.br. That's perfect. So the package name is going to be br.com.alura.contacts. So usually the application name is in uppercase, so it complains if I write it in lowercase. And that's it. It asks for the project folder. That's good for me. Next. So that's just the project name, the list of contacts that we're going to work with. The phone and tablet, I'm going to develop for phone and tablets. And in order to do so, I have to choose the targets SDK that I want to use. If I choose a really old API, for example, for O3, the API 15, then I reach 96.2% of the devices in the market. And if I use the 16, I reach only 92.8. That's good enough for me. That's the one I'm gonna use. 4.1 Jelly Bean, 92 to 93% of the market. Next, and whenever we start a new application, we have to choose a default screen, the default main screen that we're gonna show to our users. So we're gonna choose an empty screen. In Android, you can think of a screen right now, you can think of a screen as an activity. It's an activity that the user is engaging. So the user engages several activities while using your software. And right now we're gonna create an empty activity. That's what we're gonna choose. So empty, not a basic, not a full screen, just an empty activity. And when you choose an empty activity, it asks us for a few information like the activity name. Let's just write the activity name. So we're gonna show the list of contacts of our students. So I'm gonna write the student list activity. And whenever I change the name of my activity, it already changed the layout name to activity student list. That's perfect. We're just going to stick to the standards, to the default. Then I click finish, and that's it. It takes a while. It opens the project with the student list activity in my screen. I can run the project if I click just run app. It asks me for an emulator. I need an emulator to run my application. So I have here an available emulator, the emulator Alura. I can also create a new emulator. So I'll create a new emulator. I'm going to stick to the phone, Nexus 5, next. I'm going to stick to Marshmallow, the API level is 23, next. And I'm going to stick to the same name and everything is default. I'm not going to change anything. Finish. So I just asked for it to create a new emulator for me, and it's creating the emulator. It takes a while. And now I have here Nexus 5 API 23. I can just run, and I'm going to run it on this Nexus 5 API 23. Okay. It takes a while to boot my phone. As just a normal phone, it takes a while to boot it. It's booting a phone here, and it's going to take a while to do that too. You can see the phone, and you can see that it takes forever. So let's just wait a little bit longer. And when you start your phone for the first time, it shows the welcome screen, and here you go, you have your application. Here's the application name, Contacts, is the application name that I created, and it just says hello world. So let's just change something here and see how it works. Just how a basic activity works. If we go back to the code, you see that we have the student list activity, which is the activity that we are working with. It extends with inheritance from app.compat activity, and it overrides the onCreate method. The onCreate method is the method that is invoked while creating our application. And what is it saying here? It's telling Android, please set the content of my application, set the content, what I'm going to show to my end user, the view, the content view. So this content view here, activity, student list. So you have both the code. Here's the code that we're going to write, where we're going to write all the code that interacts with our user. And here in the activity student list view, we're going to configure everything on the view part of our application. So let's take a look at it. It's here at the res and layout, and we have the activity student list.xml. So the view is configured through an XML file. If I open the view here, I can either choose design, which shows the design of my view, or text, which shows the XML, the real XML. And you can see here that you have Hello World. Hello World is a text view. So let's just change the Hello World to the name of my first student. And my first student's name is Guilherme. So I just replaced from Hello World to Guilherme, the name of my first student. So to run again, I can just click run app. And it should just build and run the application again in my phone, and it should run just more faster because it doesn't have to start up the emulator again. So try avoiding close your emulator because it takes forever to start it again. And here you can see that it shows Guilherme. So it's pretty easy to change fixed content, which is what I'm doing right now. So another thing that I want to do, I want to add a few students, not just one student. I want to add several students. So let's write both the Guilherme, and let's add another student. So I'll just add another one, another text view. And then when I hit enter, it shows what is the layout width. How much do you want as a width for this text? I'll just say 10 pixels with px. Instead of pixels, we're going to use dp, which is pixel related to the depth of the device, so 10 dp. And I'm going to use 10 dp here because I have no idea what's the size of this content that I want to display. And let me say, okay, I want another text, and the text is the name of the second student, which is Paulo. So I have both Guilherme and Paulo. I save the file, and I try to run again. I run the app again. And when it runs again, we don't see Paulo here, or I see something. There's something really weird here going on. Why? Because it's just 10 pixels or something related to 10 pixels wide here, and it doesn't show the P. It doesn't even show the P here because it doesn't make sense to say here, oh, this is exactly 10 pixels or 10 pixels related to the depth and so on. So what I want to say is that this component here, it should use the exact size that fits this text. So what I'm going to say is, please set this width to wrap the content, to be the exact size to fit the content, both for the width and the height. Then I save and run again. So when it reloads, you can see that it's written Guilherme and Paulo one over the other, which is also really weird because now I realize I don't need to know the exact number of pixels for something, but instead, what it has done is that everything is related to this coordination point here, to the top left, which is really weird because everything is going to be on top of each other the way we are doing a list of content. So if we are doing a list of content, it's probably something more linear, one under the other. So instead of using a relative layout, we want to use a linear layout. So instead of a relative layout to the top left, we're going to use a linear layout. So let me just remove everything that we don't need, for example, the XML and namespace tools, all the paddings. I'm going to remove all the paddings and remove the tools context. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the relative layout to a linear layout. When I change to linear layout, it also changes the closing tag, and I can save and I can run again. So when it starts, you can see that it's linear now. It's Guilherme and then Paulo. Still, it's linear, but it's like one after the other and then it's one under the other. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to tell Android your orientation is vertical or horizontal. It's going to be vertical. So save it and run again. So I'm going to hit run here. And when it reloads, it shows one under the other. So what have we seen so far? We have seen how to create a new application. We know that an activity is something that the user interacts with, is a screen which the user interacts with. And to set the screen, we told Android to set the content view. The view is described in an XML file where we can set up a layout and all the components that are within the layout. We have seen two layouts, the relative layout and the linear layout. They're going to use a lot throughout this course. And we have seen that the linear layout has an option for horizontal or vertical orientation, and we want the vertical one. And you can ask me, oh, Guilherme, okay, but where is this activity student list variable from? Because you are accessing something like R layout activity student list. Where is it coming from? Actually, this XML file, it generates a class file automatically. So Gradle, which is building our projects on the fly, it's generating a class called R. And within this class, you can see here, within the class called R, you have something called layout, and within layout, you have a list of all the XML layout files as a variable. So it's type safe. You know you didn't do any mistake here. You didn't we haven't written it in Portuguese because it wouldn't compile. So it's compile safe in this situation. Okay, so that's what we have seen so far. So let's go and move on.